Yo, what is up guys, Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So, some news coming out of the heavyweight division, involving Kubrat Pulev's future. Now Kubrat Pulev, 44 years old I believe at this stage, a WBA regular champion, whatever that means, still hanging on, still fighting. Won his last fight against Manuel Charr in pretty convincing fashion. Wasn't a great fight. I actually watched that fight at the time, and it looked like two old men fighting. But Pulev obviously just still a level above a guy like Manuel Charr. Nevertheless, there's been a lot of talk in regards to Pulev's future fights, etc. And one of the fights that was getting banded around was a fight with rising contender, rising prospect Moses Italma for December. Now that hasn't come to fruition. Kubrat Pulev instead will be fighting Murat Gassiev, the former unified cruiserweight champion in Dubai. Weird one. This one came out of left field, but it's one of those random heavyweight fights that, listen, I'm not going to say I'm looking forward to it as such, but I'm vaguely intrigued. Now, Pulev's a guy who, he's been in and around the heavyweight division for a long, long time. Nowhere near his prime anymore. And quite frankly, even in Pulev's prime, I never really rated him. As far as I was concerned, he had one really good attribute, which was that jab. Really good, accurate jab that could cause damage. But outside of a jab, there was very little else. Upright, wide guard, head on centre line. He has that weird stance, that weird guard that looks like he's fencing or like riding a Harley Davidson. He's got a weird guard that's so open, and when he stepped up against explosive punchers like Klitschko, like Anthony Joshua, that's been exposed. And Pulev I've always seen as a one-dimensional fighter, and a fighter in which I never really enjoyed watching, to tell you the truth. He was a contender in his day, but that day is long gone. But somehow, despite being past his best, like I said, he is the regular champion. His opponent, Murat Gassiev, at one point in time, of course, looked like a formidable cruiserweight until he ran into Usyk. Got schooled in that fight, and I think it's fair to say he's never really recovered. Since that fight, he's moved to heavyweight, won a lot of fights at like a lower level, knocking out journeymen, etc. Best guy he fought at heavyweight was Otto Wallin, a fight in which he lost, a fight I picked him to win in. I actually felt Gassiev could have success at heavyweight, but it's not panned out the way I expected, to be honest with you. And I was wrong about Gassiev at heavyweight, and from what I've seen, I don't think he's going to turn that around, At heavyweight, he looks very cumbersome. Doesn't throw enough punches. It's clear he still hits hard, but yeah, he looks totally disinterested in most of his fights. Nevertheless, in the last couple of fights, he's rebounded from that Otto Wallin loss. He beat the unbeaten up-and-comer Kem Lindqvist from Denmark, who was 18-0 going into that fight. And in his previous fight, he beat the American heavyweight prospect, Jeremiah Milton. So he's coming off a couple of stoppage wins, a couple of okay victories, I guess, for his level. So he's rebounded to a degree. Does he have enough to beat a 41-year-old Pulev? That's the question. Pulev has the height and reach in this fight, and he's got that jab, which, could give Gassiev some trouble. We saw when Wallin had distance against Gassiev, he was able to kind of outpoint Gassiev from range. Can Pulev replicate a similar game plan? Not as fresh as Wallin, not a southpaw like Wallin, and he doesn't really have a punch output of a guy like Otto Wallin either. And I actually don't think he's got the chin of Wallin, to be honest with you. I know he got stopped in the AJ fight, but he quit in that fight more so than getting knocked out, of course. I feel like Pulev at this stage will be so far gone that Gassiev can easily win this fight and knock out Pulev. Again, You know, Pulev is 44 years old. He hasn't exactly been, like, super active in recent years. And he hasn't been setting the world alight with his recent performances. You know, hasn't knocked out a guy since 2019. That was Bogdan Dinu, you know. And that was a bit of a war back then. Hasn't knocked out a guy since then. Recent fights, like I said, he's gone the distance with Manuel Char. He went the distance with Ihor Shevedutsky. He went the distance with Andrei Wawashik, you know, who had a terrible chin, if you remember him. So, yeah, I mean, Pulev in recent years, he's won his fights, but hasn't looked good. I know Gassiev hasn't exactly looked amazing at heavyweight, but he's younger, he's fresher, he hits hard, and I think he'll have enough here to maybe find that killer punch to hurt Pulev and maybe knock him out. I think Pulev's going to resort, obviously, to using that jab when he can, but outside of that, I think you'll see this man employ a lot of holding, a lot of mauling. He'll try and make it ugly. He'll try and disrupt Gassiev's rhythm and forward's momentum. He's going to try and tie up and lean on Gassiev and make it ugly, you know. I think he'll be negative in his approach. And yeah, Gassiev definitely has to be mindful of that. But Gassiev in this bout needs to let his hands go. He needs to try to walk down Pulev, try and negate that jab, catch it, roll under it, come underneath with body shots, and then come over the top with his big hooks and big overhand right. But yeah, I mean, it's a weird fight. It came out of left field. I'm favouring Gassiev to win this one. But maybe Pulev can fiddle his way to a decision. I don't think he's going to knock out Gassiev. Like I said, Pulev hasn't knocked anyone out for a while. So, listen, I favour Gassiev, but listen, you never know. Pulev could, like I say, fiddle his way to a decision and spoil his way to a decision. But yeah, what do you guys think about this fight? Just a weird one. A weird one. Although, I'll be honest, I'd rather see this than Pulev versus Italma. Because at least if Gassiev beats Pulev, I think Gassiev would be more sellable as an opponent to Italma, just because he's a lot younger than Pulev. He's got more in the tank, you would think, right? So yeah, I mean, yeah, it is what it is. Share your thoughts below on this fight. Like I said, a bit of a bizarre one. Share your thoughts below. Peace.